I am a proud educator. This is my 21st year of teaching. This is my 16th year teaching communications at El Centro College, which is now part of Dallas College here in Dallas, Texas. I've taught everything between kindergarten and graduate classes at a four-year university. I'm proud that I found my space in the field of education. That wasn't originally the plan. I was going to go to college and go to law school and get paid and make a whole lot of money, and was implored by educators who looked like me to think like them and to be of service to the community around me. And my biggest service and my biggest joy has been being able to stand in front of a classroom and ultimately produce success stories like Joe. I am a person who holds multiple degrees somehow. I earned a bachelor's degree in political science and a bachelor's degree in economics. I got those both at Howard University.
Say so.
I got a master's degree in communications engineering at Southern University, Baton Rouge. And I am part of what I hope is an educated future, because I continue to pour into young people, old people, anybody that needs to know which direction to go into. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, I'm so happy to have you. We are beyond blessed that you gave us some time today. So let's go ahead and jump straight into it. The first thing I got for you is just the broad question about our educational system. It is evident, obvious, that the entire system is under attack. We have a Secretary of Education, her name is Betsy DeVos, and many have criticized her for having insufficient experience for her position. She's gone on record after her nomination in 2016, saying that she was honored to work with the then president-elect on his vision to make American education great again, stating that the status quo in education is simply not acceptable. Just as recently as last month, there was a White House conference where the President of the United States elaborated on that status quo, going as far as to call our current system left-wing indoctrination, and stating history teachers' focus on slavery has taught children to hate their country, and announced a national commission to promote a patriotic education. Now, as an educator, and this is, I'm sure, a packed up question, how do you feel about the current state of our educational system?
I think that it's kind of like the important words in the sentence need to be circled. When you talk about an educational system, I think it's little education, big part system. Let's look at the word system. It's kind of like, if you're an entertainer, show business is little show, big business.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're suffering. If you don't understand the education system as little part education, big part system, then you're not understanding what it is that you're doing every day. What we do every day as participants in a system is lead people in a particular direction so that they're useful in the future. Who decided who would be useful in the future? Who decided what elements of this system would work effectively for some people and ineffectively for other people? If we say our system is broken, no, the system works the way it always has. All of our systems work as they always have. Dr. Ronald Walters, who's one of my professors at Howard University, taught me that the reality of black life in America, black and brown life, is that we get more of everything bad and less of everything good. And systems produce that outcome. Your educational system, more of everything bad, less of everything good. Your healthcare system, we get more of everything bad, less of everything good. Your economic system, we get more of everything bad and less of everything good. Why do we always get the schools with the broken computers and the science labs that don't function? Why do we always get the year-long substitute teachers? Why do we all? Because that wouldn't be acceptable in other places.
Right.
It wouldn't be acceptable for them to have a science lab that didn't work the day school started and didn't work the day school ended. It wouldn't be acceptable for them to have a school where 5% of the teachers have master's degrees. It wouldn't be acceptable where we get a principal that's been kicked out of other schools for incompetence, but now he's the principal here because we got to put him somewhere.
Right.
We're being asked to accept things that are systemic, and the only way to change the outcome is to change the system. So if we're looking at systemic analysis of education, it's working just great. we see educational disparities, and all systems benefit somebody, which means that they don't benefit somebody else. How do we make a system benefit us? How do we do that? Well, you look at Secretary of Education DeVos, who, from my understanding, has never worked in or taught in a school in her life. How do you become Secretary of Education with absolutely no credentials?
Interesting.
It would be fascinating if I was the Surgeon General, and not only did I not have a medical degree, I barely passed biology. It would really be interesting if we took those people and put them in positions of influence. Well, the fact is that we've done that on purpose. We did not accidentally make Betsy DeVos the Secretary of Education. We put somebody who came out of a private school system, whose children only attended private schools, and now they are an advocate for private schools. Surprise, right? The reality is that education in this country is restricted. It's something that we're going to have to work on and work with. Those of us in the field of education know that we got to teach the ones in front of us, and we have to teach them not only what's in the textbook, we got to teach them marketable skills. Above teaching them education and marketable skills, we have to teach them commitment to our communities. How is your life going to be better, but how is your family's life going to be better? You graduated from college. Yay, you're going to buy your mama a house? You're going to change the conditions for the people around you, for the people behind you, your younger brothers and sisters, nieces, nephews. Are they now knowing that college isn't an option, but that it's a challenge that has to be met? Are they doing that? And if not, what was the point of you going to school?
Going to school.
If you didn't break any chains off your ankles. We're here to break chains off the ankles. That's what I'm interested in.
Well, I know that you a chain breaker because you helped me go from crawling to walking to running to flying. So what I want to know your opinion on is the access to that education, to get those chains broken. How do you feel our country does with access to education for black and brown folks, for folks who are in a public school system, in a tier 1 school system, who are going to school to get their meals? And maybe that's more even the focus than the education.
Right. Well, the challenge is that people that are going to school to get their meals are not the ones making decisions about whether or not the school gives out meals, right? Certainly, many of us grew up in economic situations and didn't realize just how important school was to them. Didn't realize that we were actually sitting in front of educated professionals that made a sacrifice just to stand in front of us. And school became the opposition. And it shouldn't be that way. If your school is in opposition, then that means the parents need to get busy to fix that school and make that school the way it needs to be, or to address it at a much, much higher level than an individual teacher in an individual classroom. Why is this okay is the hard problem that we need to be asking. I have learned as a person who went to public school, then went to a private high school, then went to a private university, then went to a public university for graduate school, that you either pay for education or you pay to catch up with people that paid for education. Education requires sacrifice. Education requires you being uncomfortable. Education, it's like going to the gym. If you just go and you're comfortable and you got on the cute outfit, you're lifting 2-pound dumbbells, you're wasting your time.
And your money.
And your money. You got to get sweaty. You got to see white spots floating away from your eyes. But on the other side of that is everything you've always dreamed about.
Everything.
So I absolutely insist that people commit to education, that you commit to your children's education. That's way more important because the babies are the future. And so you commit to your children's education in a way that would have seemed absurd a generation ago. But the stakes are so much higher. We have so many more critical decisions that we have to make and have to fight for in regards to our kids' education. We can't let another group of kids start 7th grade and they don't know how to read. We can't do it. We can't let another group of kids graduate high school and they don't know how to balance a checkbook. They don't know how to use simple, to educate. They learn math, but did you learn math that enables you to understand investment strategies?
Right.
You learn to read, but were you reading something ineffective, or you're reading something that takes the chains off your brain and empowers you to, I want to read something else after that. I read these 2 books, now I want to read the next book.
Right.
There's a free public library down the street from here, and in every community I can think of, there's a free public library. Nobody's stopping you from learning. I have a phone in my pocket that functions as a computer, and I can look up anything I want to, but instead of looking up something childish, am I using that for liberation purposes?
Right.
Do I know more than I did when I went to sleep?
What a word. Liberation purposes.
Liberation purposes, because we can only sit in the bottom of this pit so long. And, you know, if you throw a shovel down into the bottom of the pit, which is education, I can make the pit deeper.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
You're in the bottom of a pit. I throw you a shovel. You can start digging down and make the pit worse. And a lot of times, people are worse off when they go to school than they were when they started school. Right? Because hope is crushed. Right? That's irresponsible teaching. But again, you wouldn't let a teacher in your building in certain school districts that has been at this school discouraging kids for years. You know, we've heard it, teachers, and God bless them, everybody that's contributing to this, but everybody's had a bad teacher. I don't know anybody that has gone all the way through school and you never had an unprepared, disinterested teacher that was overwhelmed by the circumstances. And I'm just here to say that's not acceptable. You can't guide babies if you're doing that. If you're a pilot, you can't have a bad day.
Right.
You know, if you're a doctor, you can't have a bad day. Somebody's going to die. I would argue that if you're a teacher, you can't have a bad day.
Well, how then do teachers, educators who have had bad months, have had a bad year this year, how do we reconcile already exhausted teachers, already just stretching themselves thin teachers? How do we encourage parents who find themselves now being their kids' educators?
Mm-hmm.
How do we reconcile the discouragement that educators must be feeling this year to ensure that they're able to pour into our students as much as they can when, man, we need to pour into our teachers?
Pull it all the way back to the top of the circle. Everybody I know is somewhere between unhappy and miserable with the current state of the way education is conducted, except the people at the very top of the circle. Right? We got students in schools, our money's coming in from the state, we got average daily attendance. Are we effective at what we're doing? No. But, you know, what does the STAR test look like this year? What does the SAT and ACT look like this year? How do the social skills that kids are not getting show up in the future? You know, my great nephew, who I love dearly, started kindergarten this year. And I asked him, you know, JJ, how's kindergarten going? He said, it's really boring. Now you got a kid that's as bright as can be, but detached.
Ready for the world.
But detached from the educational system. School is not a good place. School is not a happy place. It's not a place where you go to be with your friends. It's not a place where you go on field trips. It's not a place where they bring in innovative learning experiences. It's a place where you learn to sit on a Zoom 6.5 hours, which I'm incapable of doing. Nobody's happy with this. Parents aren't happy with this. You can't be. Parents that have turned into educators all of a sudden realize that it's more than a notion to teach. Now, if you're having trouble teaching your kids at home, and I would imagine that that's most of the people that you do, God bless you, because what if I got to do that with 30 kids? What you're doing with one kid? I wouldn't get on YouTube and look up a video and then decide I'm going to pull my kid's tooth. But in essence, that's really what we're asking people to do. Get on YouTube, watch this, and teach your kids at home. And yikes, as a professional educator, it's a structured challenge. I know how difficult it is, and most of the teachers I know have turned it up to an unsustainable level. Does that make sense? Teachers are up at 7 in the morning, and they're still teaching at 11 o'clock at night.
Wow.
And that's not some of the teachers, that's most of the teachers. But you have principals that have told me, I got teachers coming in my office in tears. They can do it, but one bad day rattles them, and who knows what the future looks like. And we're 8 weeks into the school year. What does this look like in February, March, April, when it's already difficult to hold on?
Right.
This is it's not as bad as it's going to be. And that scares people to believe in fear. I have learned through the struggles of life to be fearless. I'm not scared of a damn thing. Can't be. Don't know how to be, because I've survived everything that's already happened. So I have to predict. And if there's a teacher watching this, I'm with you. I have to predict this is only going to go up. It's got to get better. At a certain point, it's got to stop. Where our preparation has to be is for what's at the end of this thing. Because at a certain point, there is no normal for us to go back to. We got to create the world that we want out of what we're at right now. You're facing that in healthcare. You have a COVID surge currently right now. Well, you got to create the world after this COVID surge, rather than just cross your fingers
And hope for the best.
hope for the best. And that's so that means that leadership, and leadership is us. That's the scary part. Ain't nobody coming over the hill on a white horse to save us. We all we got.
Right.
We are the ones coming over the hill. We've been telling people that it's the 11th hour, it's the last second. No, this is the hour. And the time for change is now, and the people to change it are watching this video.
And you know what? You bringing that up just brings us that much closer to where that change can start. It can start in 13 days, brother. We got 13 days that we can collectively do what we do as a people, band together, and incite real and meaningful change going forward.
Right. Now, as a voter registrar in Dallas County, as a voter educator, because that's one of the things that's important. We got to educate people to vote. Who are you voting for? There was 26 items on the ballot in Dallas County. 26. Why are there 26 items? 26 items. I know this person at the top of the ballot. I know who I'm voting for. But what about the rest of the
What about the rest?
Are
Where's
you
the
educated
education?
when you go in? And there are educational options available. League of Women Voters has a completely nonpartisan voter education program. It's on their website. This is where this candidate stands on this issue. This is where this candidate stands on this issue. Pick the candidates that match your issues and hold their feet to the fire. People have told me that there are no options that they enjoy. Well, the reality is that may be your truth, but the reality is bigger than that. There's options that cannot be reinforced, because a vote for is reinforcement of everything that particular people stand for. Right? And if you showed me what you stand for, this is no different than having an abusive spouse, and then they say, baby, I'm a change, and you let them back in, only to be subject to that. And I hope that's not triggering for anybody, but that's literally the power of what's on the ballot in front of us. We have somebody who every indication is that they do not care about a certain percentage of the population. And since I happen to fall in that percentage of the population, I hope you don't expect my vote. And if you vote for that person, then you don't care about me, right? You really don't care. Certain things are not deal breakers.
And at this point, it's crazy how something as simple as a decision about someone's vote almost dictates who they are at this point. We're so polarized that to even think of a vote in one direction can make me not want to be friends with you no more. Because if you support that, by definition, you can't possibly support this. If you're supporting somebody who's running an educational system who has absolutely zero experience in education, how can you then in turn say that you care about my education, you care about my child's education? Most of our students can't even go back to school at this point without thinking about their safety. What's going to happen when that student comes home? Do they have an immunocompromised grandparent or sibling or somebody who could be immunocompromised for just so many different reasons? But how do we educate folks about using all the resources that we have available to us, even our phones? They're just little rectangular computers with all the information accessible, but how do we filter out what's right, what's wrong? How do we filter out what's true, what's false? How do we filter out what's meaningful to us so we can take that and use it to make our community better, our country better, our children's lives better? There's so many things that in 13 days people are going to make a stand for what is important to them. And as someone who is asymmetrically affected by this pandemic, because black and brown people, always seem to be on the shit end of the stick when it comes to what's going on in our country, which I think exhausts us to even want to get educated to go vote. Why would I spend my time going to vote for a system that doesn't have my back before? Is it going to have my back going forward? Because what we see right now is there doesn't seem to be any accountability for black and brown lives.
The fact that we have to have a discussion about Black Lives Matter, the fact that that needs to be said means clearly nobody was saying it, and if people push back when you say Black Lives Matter, what are you really saying? When you say all lives matter, well, where were you? Where were you in 1619? Where were you when we were in chattel slavery? Where were you when Rosa Parks was on the back of the bus and people were turning fire hoses on us? Where were you in 1968 when whole communities were burning down? Where were you? Where you been? Where were you when you say Black lives, all lives matter? Well, where was the all lives matter when person after person after person is killed by the police? Where the all lives matter people live? All lives matter? Are you at the border where there are hundreds and hundreds of migrant families separated? Are you caring about the quality of life? And 200,000 people have died in the casket, dead, gone, ain't coming back, changing the lives of everybody left here. Where's the love? And so, yeah, we got to be motivated. We got to be intensely motivated to push this country in the right direction. It's our country, and what we've done successfully is convince a percentage of the population that this ain't your country.
Right.
And you're not an American. You're not a real American. I ain't never lived nowhere else. I'm about as American as it gets. Somebody from my family has probably fought in every war this country has ever had. So how am I not? I'm not American when it's time for military service, but I'm not American no more because I think that something is wrong and say something about it. That's not the way we're going to do things in the future. And so I'm empowering myself and empowering the people behind me, empowering students like you who are now, as a ripple effect, empowering other people. And change has got to start in the heart and the stomach first. I challenge everything that's said that's not right. I push people in the right direction, and if you are on the other side, you're a problem to be dealt with. You're going to be stepped over. You're going to be ran through. You're going to be dragged, but righteousness is going to get the end word in this situation. I just can't imagine that we can impact change without making systemic change. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
If you don't make systemic change, then it's like, cleaning up something and then it's dirty again and you clean it up again. And we're tired of the eternal loop.
Right.
Let's look at systems. What's causing these problems? Who's benefiting from the system that's working the way that it is?
Right.
Because, wow, if you say the prison industrial system has captured a significant number of minorities, then those people aren't participating in the economy in the future. Oh, I'm on paper. Well, thank you. Okay, well, yeah, where were you at from 2012 to 2017? Well, I was incarcerated. Thank you. Well, what's the big picture, though? What's the big picture? That's a smaller number of people that are applying for jobs, and if I'm on the other side of that, keep that jail thing running, because that means that instead of 20 applications for a job, it's 4. If I can knock out 16 of the people before I apply, yeah, great. Clap, yay, woo-hoo. Yeah, because it's the same thing with our schools, right? Schools function extremely well for certain people.
Right.
If this school is acceptable in this neighborhood, then let's make all the schools like that. Well, no, we can't do that. Okay. We look at exceptional schools all the time. And we know what they're doing. We know what they're not doing. Well, how come we can't have that all manipulated everywhere? Well, because now that it's our turn, we out of money. Well, we got plenty of money. Let's spread it around. We're across the street from a high school in Richardson, Texas. Every high school in Richardson, Texas built a 200,000 square foot indoor practice facility for football every year. we had that kind of money, it's my tax dollars at work. But you mean to tell me we can't get the sink fixed in the science lab at a high school 5 miles from here?
Can't replace some 10-year-old outdated textbooks, get
Right.
the computer up in here,
The-
a clean water fountain.
The students are working on Windows 98 and gonna come into college wondering what's wrong with all these computers because we didn't have these kind of computers. You know, you mean to tell me that this is what we're doing?
That is such an excellent point to kind of segue into the next point I was going to make. Do you think all education is equal? Do you think that your diploma holds the same weight as my diploma? If we did the same work, got the same grades, but I was white. Let's reduce the melanin in my skin right now,
Please
and
don't.
I'm gonna use my white voice. But that didn't even sound white. What did that sound
No,
like?
that sounded Puerto Rican.
I'm not really good at being a white person.
No.
All right. Well, let's pretend I got my diploma and you got your diploma. I'm white, you black. Whose diploma is worth more?
The person who got not just educated but liberated, the person that got marketable skills, the person that got a degree but realizes it didn't put them anywhere on God's list above anywhere else, the person that's still going out and feeding the homeless and tutoring the kids and rocking the babies at the hospital. Because if your education didn't produce that person, it's training. And I worked at a zoo in high school and I trained a monkey. Right? You can train people to do anything, but are you educated? Are you free? Freedom feels better, right? Are you doing as much as you can for the struggle? It's not just about you. Are you selfish? If you're selfish, then you're trained. But if you're educated and liberated, you're trying to get as many people on the bus as possible.
Absolutely.
You know, which is why I wound up with skills and talents to do other things, deciding consciously that I needed to be an educator. I needed to work with people. I needed to understand the circumstances. As a college professor, one of the huge disparities in this COVID era is that I'm not able to work with people the same way. You know, in the spring, before all of this happened, I had a student who came in to class and put his head down on the desk. Okay, I was kind of tapped him on the shoulder, brother, you all right? Yeah. Fell asleep again. Okay, talk to me for a minute after class. Hey man, what's going on? I don't do the put your head down in front of me and go to sleep. That wouldn't work at your job.
Right.
So let's practice what you're going to do at your job. What's going on? Well, he and his girl had a newborn infant, and he had taken on a job at UPS 4 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock in the morning, trying to get, okay, I understand now. I'm not condemning you, but let's do this smarter. Let's get you a license or a certificate so you can earn more money in fewer hours and sleep or help your girl with the baby in the middle of the night.
Right.
Let's get to that point where, you know, we're not in survival mode. We got all these resources on campus. You never know. Hey, let's go down here and maybe they'll give you some formula and some diapers to take home. What's your girl's face look like when you walk in the door with formula and diapers? Now you've got now you've got a system that's working for you. And my challenge is that absence of a physical presence in front of me, I have not been able to connect people with that. I may have a radiology student right now that I could say, hey, I need you to talk to Joe because you're graduating, and man, she's the best person to talk to help you understand your dreams. But if I'm online, I don't have a connection that allows me to do that. You know, and so I'm really, really working hard, and all the teachers I know are working hard to put ourselves back in it, you know, to put the humanness back in it. Right? And so I'm thankful for those educators that are continuing in the way that has been laid out for us. I'm not letting go of the fact that somehow, somewhere, the people that are coming in front of me have a particular purpose. There's billions of people on this planet. God put these people in front of me. How do I get in their heart and push them in the right direction? How do I show them the way to go? Because somebody showed me, or I'd still be stumbling in the darkness. None of this was anything. If you had looked at me at 10 years old, where I'm at right now was not predicted. You know, it's from a single-parent family, an economically depressed community, where I could go up and down the block knocking on doors and not find one person that went to college. Right?
Started from the bottom,
Started
now we're
from
here.
the bottom, but you crawl on your elbows and loving people around me. Family loved me, believed in me, prayed over me, crawled on my elbows till I got on my knees, crawled till I learned to walk, took the best blows that could be thrown directly to the chest, shook them off, and now I'm Harriet Tubman. I'm going back and getting more people, went and got you. Well, okay, now me and you are going back to get somebody.
You know that's right.
The spirit of Harriet Tubman is not gone, but the spirit of the slaves that snitched and told the master where we were going ain't changed.
It's alive and well, ain't
it?
it?
Ain't left either. So we won before, and we're gonna win again. Look at the squirrel.
That squirrel's sitting right
Sitting
in front
right
of
in front of us,
Like,
eating.
I've been through some things too, yo.
Like the fly on Pence's head.
Yo, stop it, because you just took one of my rapid fire
I'm
questions
sorry.
away,
Let's
man.
Let's keep going.
Well, since you brought it up, let's go ahead and touch base on that, because now you done got me squirreling to another topic. Kamala Harris.
Thank you.
God bless this woman. She's
You know.
also an HU graduate. She's a sorority sister. I think you're a fraternity brother
Yes.
as well.
Howard University classmate of mine. When I auditioned for the debate team at Howard, the person I had to go up against was a fine sister named Kamala Harris.
Ooh!
And I thought she wasn't going to tear my head off. She tore my head off. And I would imagine that woman don't even exist because she's been walking around thoroughbred for a long time. But Kamala Harris would tell you about the pressurized intensity that came out of being a student at Howard University in the 1980s. It comes out of, okay, you're going to be the best in here, but are you going to be the best out there? And so none of that is surprising. And when I say I look around at my classmates, I don't look at myself. I look at my classmates, and wow, the mayor of Newark was sitting in that classroom with me. Wow, the former mayor of Atlanta was sitting in the classroom with me. Wow, we got all these people that are judges that were sitting in the classroom with us. You turn on the TV, wow, CNN, Frederica Whitfield sitting in the classroom with me. I'm gonna turn on ESPN, Stanley Verrett sitting in the classroom with me. I'm gonna turn on the NFL Network, Steve Weiss sitting in the classroom with me. It's not an accident. Pressure makes diamonds. And we were all in a pressurized situation where we were able to let go, let God get in us, let education get in our spirits, work with people that would snatch you by the collar and kick you in the butt if you did anything but your best. And that's an environment. That's why I write alumni donation checks to Howard University, because I know what happens there.
Right.
And I believe in it, and I'm proud to support students that are there now and encourage students that go there in the future. And as long as it's a need for us to be free, there will be an active functioning Howard University.
Well, as a graduate from a historically black college and university to now being an educator in a non-historically black college and university, how would you say that being amongst melanated students, melanated teachers, how did that culturally impact you? Do you feel like it helped set you up for success going to a school where you felt represented?
I'll tell a story from a long time ago that wasn't a long time ago. I had several options coming out of high school going into college, and I did college visits the summer after my junior year of high school. I visited, my final four choices were Georgetown University, the University of Virginia, Howard University, and Hampton University, the little HU. And I remember going on a campus tour at Howard. It was with my best friend, Chris. And we went on this tour, and my junior year of high school, I had taken chemistry, and I did horrible. I worked as hard as I've ever worked at anything. I never understood it. I didn't get it. My teacher was in his second year. Teacher didn't look like me. I went to a high school where there was not one teacher that looked like me. Not one in the building. I was struggling with it, and he said, well, black kids just don't do well in chemistry.
Ooh, that was a bold statement.
You're a nice kid, you're polite, I can see how hard you work, and you come to tutoring and all that, but, I'm going to pass you, you're going to get a C, but you're just not going to excel in this, and that's okay. Well, we go on this campus tour at Howard University, and we walk past the chemistry department, and I turn to Chris and say, why does this school have a chemistry department? Black kids don't do well in chemistry. I didn't realize the tour guide heard me until I realized the whole tour had stopped.
Wow.
He went into the building, came out with 4 people with earned doctorates in chemistry. Hi, I'm Dr. Jones. Yeah, I'm in there working on a $17 million research
Get
grant.
that foolishness
Here,
out of
I
your
brought
head.
out these 2 textbooks I've written. I'm Dr. Smith. Hey, I'm Dr. Abrams. I'm on a conference call with NASA, but I'll call you back. I mean, all of a sudden, there was no longer the ability to say, we can't do it.
Right.
I did not know that there were people that had PhDs in physics. I didn't know that there were people that had PhDs in classical literature. The transformative thing wasn't that they taught me the material, because I could have gotten that anywhere. They taught me to do, act, and be black while I was learning the
Ooh,
material.
say that again and say it louder.
They taught me to do, act, and be black at all times. It's not a switch that you hit to cut this off from 8 to 5.
Right.
And the people learn to respect your people because they learn to respect you.
Right.
That yes, you're carrying this on your shoulders, but you're prepared for it. That there's no impossibility when it comes to it. It comes a point when you're tired and you got to take a knee and rest. But there's no impossible. And they wouldn't ask you to do it if it wasn't impossible. I learned academic invincibility in college.
Damn.
And I know other people that went to predominantly white institutions, God bless them, and maybe you learned that at your school. But I learned there's nothing I can't learn. If you put me in a classroom, I can figure some stuff out. I may have to be uncomfortable. I may have to struggle a bit. I may have to do some things I wasn't necessarily prepared to do. I may have to humble myself as a man and say, I'm not doing well. Can you help me, please? But the reality is, I've got to.
That's how you achieve growth.
That's how you achieve growth, right? Yeah, you don't stop when it gets hard. You crank it up.
Yes.
And so I am so very reflective of that I've taught that to everybody that's passed my way afterwards. I'm grateful for the chances that I've had to learn what I've learned in the environment that I learned it in. But hey, if you got to go up in the library and sit there and read books till it closes, I respect that. If you got to get on, an academic library that's open online and start with A and read everything until you get to C, and that means that instead of going to bed at 11, you go to bed at 11:15 and you get up 15 minutes early and use that extra half hour a day to improve yourself. Do you realize if you studied anything intensely an hour a day for 5 years, you'd be a designated expert in that field? You would know more. When they go on CNN and they say, and we're coming to the expert on geopolitical education, an hour a day for 5 years, they'll be turning the camera to you. And time passes whether you want it to or not. 5 years is going to go by whether you want it to or not. What are you going to know more about in 5 years than you know now? How are you going to develop expertise? Expertise develops brand develops credibility develops finances.
Very good.
Straight line.
Well, I wish it was a straight line with it. Just when somebody's looking for their education, and a lot of times you have this model of what the American education is, right? You go to grade school. Once you get to the latter part of your high school career, you start looking at colleges. You're applying for scholarships. Hopefully, you get into the college of your choice. You spend a few years there, and hopefully you're released into society as an educated person who can hopefully make some type of a social impact that benefits more than just you. But a lot of times that path to education, that path to even higher education is not linear. You get life that's thrown at you. And for folks, with black and brown skin, life that gets thrown at us is usually dog shit.
Right.
It's hard to navigate. It's exhausting to navigate. It's discouraging to navigate. So what do you say to folks who are tired, who have the gumption to want to dig in and get it, but man, they just tired, and exhaustion is the word of 2020. We tired.
We're tired. What I've learned is to find strength. What I've learned that problems are not unique to the individual. They're almost, you can almost calculate in problems. I'm going to try to do this, and then it's going to go terribly wrong. Then I'm going to try to do this, and it's going to go terribly wrong. You know, as teachers, as parents, as participants in life, you know, you start having plan D, plan E, plan F.
You better know it.
Because
A and B is the starting point.
A is going to go up in flames, and the devil's going to laugh in your face. It is. I don't know nobody that went just still working on plan A. Right? It's going to take some hard times. Your dreams are not all going to come true. The mental toughness is probably the most important skill to develop, and that's applicable to academia, but it doesn't have to be academic. I would imagine that some of the people watching this are beyond the academic part of their life, right? Where you're sitting in a classroom taking notes, but you're not past the educational part of your life, ever. You know, you've got to say that when you hit a pothole, I've got to keep going. You know, you're going to hit a wall, or you're going to climb over it, or you're going to dig under it, or you're going to walk around, and you're going to kick that thing till it falls, right? But the unbreakable spirit is so key, it's so important, that you realize that's what's got our ancestors through the voyages they've taken to get us here. Every generation has challenges. I see people say we are not our ancestors, and I laugh because you're not cut out for it. You couldn't have been them for 20 minutes. Right? You couldn't have held your breath for 20 minutes. I remember talking to one of my elders who told me about just some of the challenging circumstances that they were in at work. And they learned to write the person who was troubling them's name on a piece of tape and put the piece of tape on the bottom of their shoe. And so when the boss would start talking crazy, they would just kind of rub their foot.
Love that visual.
You know, yes, sir.
There's a couple of names I could put underneath my sneaker right now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Right. No idea. Did it keep you from going forward, man? And there is nothing better. And again, I'm old school referencing here, than the movie Rocky and the fight scene. And Apollo Creed has beat the snot out of him, and he won't fall down. And there's this scene last round, and everybody's saying stay down, and Rocky gets up and his eyes are swollen shut, and Apollo Creed just looks at him and drops his head. I can't hit him with no notes. You know, I'm not ever fighting this fool again. I cannot do anything more than I did today. I can't, you know, and so my goal is to exhaust any and everybody that comes at me. It happens. It's happened personally. It's happened professionally. It's happened emotionally. Microaggressions are real and they're exhausting. You can't respond to all of that. One of my favorite quotes, James Baldwin said, to be black in this society and to be relatively conscious is to be in a rage almost all the time.
Wow.
What if we just were completely outraged by police killing unarmed black people? You know how tired you would be? Realize this happened over 290 times this year, and we're in October. It's been 290. They ain't all hit the newspaper.
Right.
But 290 times. We can't keep this up.
Right.
You know, so how much of yourself is left? What are your vents? You know, all steam requires a vent. Otherwise, there's an explosion.
Right.
So where are your vents? And I'm learning to find vents in conversations like this one. I'm learning to find vents in exercise. I'm learning to find vents in teaching and helping other people. I'm learning to find vents that people are glad to see me coming because they know I'm there for a specific purpose and I'm meeting some needs. But I'm imploring everybody, you got to find a vent. If you don't have one, find a healthy vent. Whatever it is, do something repetitively until you're good at it, and then do it repetitively as you can. Right? And so you've got to find a way. I'm scared for people that don't have a way. And men in particular, brothers, you know, we're used to bottling up. It ain't healthy, it ain't good. See your doctors, get your checkups, find a vent, a healthy vent. You know, Old English 800 is not a vent. Let's find some healthy vents. Let's find some responsible, productive ways. Let's find somebody you can talk to, somebody you can cry in front of. The mental health outcome of this crisis that we're living in is indescribable.
You know, and that was actually our theme last month for our Melanin Health, was all about mental health. So I'm so happy that you wound up kind of touching on that, because it is true, not for just black and brown communities, but for educators who have been thrown into this shitstorm where now they have to completely redevise their teaching styles. For folks in the healthcare industry, my goodness, what toll it has taken on healthcare providers watching what is being called a hoax outside of the hospital, watching folks just succumb to this disease, watching other healthcare providers succumb to this disease. I was actually, let me see this, I was reading an article recently, I'm going to bring this one up with you. It was titled "The Disproportionate Impact of COVID-19 on Black Health Care Workers." So aside from the fact that the communities are absolutely being ravaged by this virus, those of us in healthcare, and particularly those of us with melanin in our skin in healthcare, we're so tired. We're exhausted, and finding a vent, as critical as it is, it seems a little easier said than done when you still got to put your scrubs on every day and go back to the hospital to take care of another person who either was wearing their mask or was not wearing their mask, or thinks this is a game, or thinks this is super serious. Our healthcare providers were dying. Our black and brown people were dying. The Harvard Business Review released some data. These were coming out of 3 states, New York, Chicago, and Louisiana, and it indicates that the deaths from COVID-19 are disproportionately high among communities of color, Black and Latino patients in particular. In New York, blacks make up 22% of the city, but they constituted 28% of the fatalities from the virus. In Chicago and Louisiana, those numbers are even more horrifying. Blacks make up about 30% of the population, but they comprise 70% of those killed by COVID-19. So what do you say to folks who, want to find their vents, but they can't see? All they see is red. They just can't see.
I have so much empathy with and respect for people that are dragged into the front lines. I can't tell you how much I've prayed for anybody that's had to hold up a phone so that somebody could say goodbye to their mother on FaceTime.
Right, this is called the front line now. That's war terminology.
That's war terminology.
Why are healthcare providers in scrubs being called frontline workers?
Being called frontline workers in the war. Why is your job a battle? Because who's on the other side? Any war has an opponent. Who's the opponent?
Who's the opponent?
Who's the opponent? Who, again, you analyze problems at the basis of not just who suffers from it, but who benefits from it. Right? What's the benefit to somebody of wiping out a significant portion of the black and brown population? Somebody's winning if we're losing.
That's right.
If it's a war, if there's a loser, there's got to be a winner. And so when we say we're losing a war, then it's increasingly important that we just understand the systems that we're pushing back against. And the educational systems are looking like the medical systems, right? There's certain hospitals that don't have a problem getting PPE. There's certain problems that are not putting patients in the hallway. There's certain problems, that they're not opening the convention center in New Orleans to use the floor of the convention center as a COVID staging base. They're not doing that in Beverly Hills. They're not doing that. They're not doing that in upstate New York. They're not doing that in Highland Park here in Dallas. So, to say that this is just the way it is and we have to accept it is not true. What we've got to do is push ourselves on the other side of change. And while I can wish there wasn't, what tangibly am I doing? Before I go to bed tonight, what am I doing to fix that? And if I haven't done anything to address it and fix it, maybe it's not time to go to bed yet. It's an everyday struggle, and we're tired of swinging, and I understand. I have good friends that are healthcare providers that I just don't talk to very much anymore because I know how busy they are. Every so often I send a text of encouragement, but I'm not expecting a 20, 30-minute hee phone call because I know they're in the belly, and they, pushing their way out has to have an impact. And so again, it's the unity of community, it's understanding, but also we're going to help. How are we going to help? What are we going to do? What resources are we pulling out so that people don't feel abandoned and destroyed by the job that they do?
Right.
Because I imagine if you're on the front line, if you're a nurse, it would be easy after patient dies of a preventable illness to feel discouraged by the job that you do. But do you have that feeling if you're the CEO of a healthcare system?
Not directly involved with
Not
patient
that-
care.
Ain't seen a patient? Excellent healthcare, home healthcare if you want it.
No, I'm sure
No,
you got that money from the CARES Act.
Yeah,
and
you got several $1 million in your bank account every time you swipe your card. Yeah, this ain't really troubling. It's big business.
That's almost the definition of white privilege, is when there are problems around you that do not directly affect you, you don't see the problem.
Right. Yeah, but there before the grace of God goes any of us, And so every so often we get a COVID death that surprises people. How did they get COVID? And I would just say, if the president of these yet to be United States can get COVID and his wife and kid can get COVID, anybody can get COVID, right? Because how many layers of health care does that dude have? How many people protect? How much protection does he have? How much can he personally limit interaction? And he came on with the COVID.
But the quality of care that he was entitled to, do you think you will receive that quality of care?
I realize that is not available to everybody, and as someone who has suffered several losses of people to COVID, I wish it was.
Right.
Somebody that has close friends that have come through COVID, but wow, is their heart and lungs ever going to be the same?
Right.
Yeah, I wish that was available. So we're going to keep it going up.
Well, there's an old adage in America that says when white America catches a cold, black America gets pneumonia. And wow, that's become such a chilling reality. We have 13 days left, Professor, 13 days before we take the power that was given to us by being born in this country, that so many people fought and died to make sure we had, to make sure that we still have, and there's still folks trying to take those rights away from us. But how do we exercise those rights? How do we educate folks on what their rights are and how they can exercise them? They can do it in 13 days, they can do it today. I encourage you to go vote today if early voting is available in your state. But how do we take this feeling that we're the ones getting sick, but we still have to go make the change in America that we want to see? How do we take what we have right now and use it to make the change that we want to see going forward?
Excellent question. I would say the number one, participation is key. If you have the opportunity to participate in the vote, then you need to, but it's not just about you. Everybody that I'm cool with, if I'm cool enough with you, that we're friends, I'm cool enough to ask you, have you voted, did you vote? I've already voted, but I'll go with you. I'll go stand in the line with you so you have somebody to talk to. I'll stop what I'm doing. We are arranging, renting buses to take groups of people to the polls. We're voting, and I'm saying we because it's a collective we.
Yes.
Because it's people that are helping people that aren't.
Yeah, there's plenty of we when it comes to trying to suppress the vote. That's not
Yeah.
one person doing it.
Yeah,
that is
there's
a
not one person doing
collective
it.
effort.
It is not accidental that the voting machines in your district don't work, but there's plenty of them in other places. It's not accidental that you got to wait 7.5 hours to vote and you go somewhere else and there's 20 minutes and they'll wheel the machine out to your car. You don't even have to get out of the car. It's not accidental. It is not accidental that the governor of Texas has decided we need one drop-off
One ballot
box
box per county.
And there are counties in Texas where it's an hour and a half drive across the county. And so what are you talking about? Why one? And what if I don't have a car? What if I'm on the bus? Again, they're pushing back for a reason. But if you're my friend, you can't not vote. You can't not get around to it. If you are somebody I'm cool with, if you're somebody I've dated, if you're somebody that I have cracked open a beer with, if you're somebody that I feel like could be helping and you're not, it's like if we were sitting out here now and somebody ran up and started beating me up. You got two choices. You can help me get out of this fight, or you can stand back and be like, well, hey, it wasn't hitting me. Well, okay, after the fight is over, it's another fight.
Yeah, now we got another fight.
It's another fight. Because you did just as much damage as the person who ran up and started
Yes,
hitting you.
non-action is action.
Action. So, we've been ran up and, okay, babies in cages at the border, we've been ran up and hit. The right to vote, the American Health Care Act being under duress, we've been ran up and hit. And you're either fighting with me or you can go to hell.
Yeah, by definition, if you ain't for it, you're against it.
You're against it. And we can't go out together and you get jumped and then we get back in the car together and ride off like, man, that was messed up. You all right? No. Did you help? Because otherwise, this is another fight.
You're either part of the solution or you're not. You can't too much bitch about what's going on around you if you haven't done your part to alleviate it.
So I am doing my part. I am encouraging everybody that is watching this to do your part to make sure down the line. You got brothers that, you put them in the car with you. Go vote, right? Hey, listen, we're going to go and watch the game. Well, before we go watch the game, let's all go vote together.
Yum.
It's, hey girl, we going shopping after we vote.
I love that.
But it is participatory, and it's everybody. And you're still getting people that are voting for the first time in their life. While I was voting, somebody came in. They had never voted before, right? That's a big thing. That's key. That's crucial going forward. People that have never cast a ballot in their life, all of a sudden see what's at stake. We can't expect fairness, which is why we got to get our votes in early, right? Because if you if you mail in a ballot on election day, they may count it, they may not count it. We need as many votes in there. Then we need to have effective access to those that are in office. Hey, this is what your platform said you were going to do. It's interesting that there is only one candidate for president that does not have a written platform. None. You go to their website, there is no written platform. If we get in the car and we drive into New York, well, how are we going to get there? I don't know. We're just going to drive till we see the Statue of Liberty. Let me out this car.
I'll get out the car now.
Get out the car now. You ain't got to stop. Just slow down.
You need a map. You need a plan.
You need a point. You have no. Are we even going in the right direction?
Right.
Like all of a sudden we see the Pacific Ocean. Oops.
And I think that is so crucial right now. Are we going in the right direction?
Right.
Do we have a plan? And if we don't, we sure need to make one. So if you haven't made a plan thus far to vote, get friends together, families together, of course, as safely as possible, and make sure that you do your part to participate because it does matter. You do have power. There's power in knowledge. It will set you free. There is power in your vote. It could set us all free. And let me tell you, if there was not power in that vote, if there was not power in your abilities to make change, nobody would be working that hard to make sure that you did not exercise that power.
And it is personal. They're making sure you don't exercise the power.
Yes.
They're specifically throwing your ballot away if you allow them to. But the other equally important thing here is modeling, right? Take a young person with you. Take a teenager with you. Take a preteen with you. Let them see how the process works. Let them stand in line with you. Let them understand that it is a sacrifice. Tell them who you're voting for and why. It impacts their life. They need to see it because they need to imitate it in 5 years, right? A 13-year-old will be 18 years old. And what have you done to show them that voting was important, right? We learn exponentially, environmentally, and you've got to create an environment where not voting It's just something that's intolerant.
Right. Like, you didn't vote? What the?
Yeah, yeah, 18th birthday, that's what you are signing up
Yeah,
to do.
you gotta look at somebody just you didn't. What you mean you didn't vote?
What you mean
Like,
you didn't
just
vote?
look at them like they that stupid.
Right,
Like,
so you cool with me getting beat down.
right.
Because the system's beating me down. And apparently you cool with it because you didn't vote for people that would help me get this oppression up off me. So
Right.
apparently you cool with it. You didn't vote, all right, this is our last conversation. It really is.
And I think it all circles right back around to education.
Mm-hmm.
Are you educated to know why your vote matters so much? Okay,
Right.
it's not just the executive branch that's on the
Absolutely.
ballot, right? That's kind of where everybody's focus is, because that's what's on the TV all the time, acting a fool, saying the most like vile things that I've ever heard. But it's the judicial system,
It's
you
the
know,
judges
it's
you
the
vote for.
legislative system. There's all of these branches of government are supposed to work together, checks and balances. But to have that check and balance and to be inspired to participate in that system, you got to be educated on how it works.
Sure. And you need to have access to those people that are, even if something as simple as a city council person, well, they can put you on a commission. They can put you on a panel. They can put you on, the city council person for this area is a colleague of mine from El Centro. And when he decided to run, talked to me about helping getting minority voters into the ballots. How can I get these votes? Well, let me introduce you to some people and use some of my associations. Well, the next step after that was that, wow, Payne, we're going to put you on this commission. And it was, out of all things, the Red Light Camera Commission. This is some nonsense. You just writing people tickets. So all of a sudden, now me on the Red Light Panel Commission, bam, not guilty. Bam, not guilty.
Booyah!
Bam, not guilty. You realize they've stopped using that as a state law? And this is in the last 4 years since he was elected, but you have to get some people in the room to say, wait a minute, this is nonsense. You have to get some people in the room to say, well, the rec center that's around the corner from my house, fully funded, clean, open, brand new playground equipment. But what about the rec center down the hill? Why is the basketball court locked up and only open 2 hours a day, 5 days a week?
Yeah, why is the hoop missing?
Why is the hoop missing? What makes this cool, right? How come ain't nobody emptying the trash cans? We don't want babies playing around broken bottles. All of a sudden, but again, it was somebody that could tap him on the shoulder that I could text him right now and say, hey, you need to get somebody over here because the grass is kind of tall and the babies are playing, right? So, it's participation, but the participation comes with step one. You educated yourself.
Yes.
And step two, you voted in line with your education. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I got one more question for you, and then we're going to do a quick rapid fire.
Gotcha.
When you speak about education and kind of thinking about people, we had a conversation at a OMH just last week or the week prior where we were discussing an educated person versus an intelligent person. Do you think that those terms are synonymous, and why or why not?
The smartest people I've ever met in my life don't have college degrees, but they don't lack education. There are people that are actually not assets, they're liabilities to our community because of their education. Scary thing. I saw a poll that said 20% of African American male college students were planning to cast a ballot for Donald T. Trump. 20%. That means that
Damn.
we got some work to do.
We do. We got some
We
education.
clearly, undereducated that Roe at Sam Houston State that's partying with the Theta News and has a girlfriend that don't look like his mama. We have clearly distracted them to the point that they have that illusion of inclusion. And people think,
Illusion of inclusion. Say it.
50 Cent saying he was voting for because of the tax policies. Well, number one, you're ignoring everything else. Number two, how hot are you in the streets? When the last time anybody here bought a 50? Does he even have anything out?
No, last I heard, I think he filed for bankruptcy.
It seems like it was years ago. So you look for models to emulate. Do you want to be this person? You know, God bless 50 Cent. God bless Kanye. God bless the people that are on the other side. They'll be home one day. Or they'll be at the end of their life wishing they were. I can't imagine that intelligent people run things. It's people that work hard. It's people that are consistent. It's people that believe in themselves. But we've all seen somebody promoted in front of us and then come back to us humble, asking for help. You know, that's my current reality at my place of work. That's the current reality of almost anybody that's worked in America for 5 years. That,
People who are called now essential workers.
right, that you have seen a complete knucklehead be put in charge of everything, and you did the opposite of what they told you and made them think they decided it, and everybody clapped for them and they got the award, but you knew.
Right.
So knowledge is power. Know who you are, know whose you are, know what your mission is, know who's counting on you, know who you belong to. Continually re-educate yourself. I had to count because I had some complaints about this. I have 24 books that I'm reading right now. Like there's a book that I'm reading in every single room in my house. I have piles of books.
Well, then 24 whole books
24
simultaneously.
books simultaneously.
You go, boy.
I'm pouring information in my head because I got time. I'm working at home or I'm living at work, however you want to describe that. And so I got time. I'm pouring stuff into my head. My education is only valuable if I'm able to transmit it to other people. I can't teach what I don't know. What I'm teaching right now has never happened before in history, so how is being out of college for almost 30 years equip me to teach the future? It doesn't. It equips me to think critically, to structure myself that I know I can go get some information and learn it and then share it with somebody else, which is what I just did on this.
Yes.
Right? I wouldn't have statistics if I was at home coasting on my 26, 27-year-old college degrees. I wouldn't have that information to share. I gotta come out. I gotta stay relevant. I gotta stick with it. That's more than saying I was on a diet 27 years ago. You know, okay, but right now you got
Right now, you got diabetes, brother.
you got the sugar, you got all the clogged arteries, you on a cane. But yeah, you did work out that one time in '98. So, you know, it's the learning part of it and the growing part of it. And I'm so happy to be connected to people like yourself, people like your audience that are pushing learning and growing in a whole new direction. God bless you.
Well, God bless you, Professor. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day, even if you're just Zoom calling at the house and shoving an obscene amount of information into your brain so that you can continue to pass that knowledge on to other folks. We can't tell you how much we appreciate your time.
Aluta continua, pomoja tu teshinda. The struggle continues, but we will win without a doubt.
Amen, amen.
There we go.
All right, I got a rapid fire for you. We're going to do just a couple of quick questions before we wrap up. You ready? We're going to throw it out and just say the first thing that comes to you.
Okay.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Tupac or Biggie?
Notorious B.I.G.
All
Christopher
day, yo.
Wallace,
All day, yo.
all
If you
day
don't
tomorrow
know,
and the day
now
afterwards.
you know.
BK's finest.
When you think of black or brown leaders, who inspires you?
My mother.
Why?
Because I've never seen anybody take it from 0 to 100 in the way that she has. She's beautiful, she's intelligent, she's revolutionary, she's still grinding, and I wouldn't be if it wasn't for her. You know, you're talking about somebody that grew up in economically depressed circumstances during a time when it was damn near illegal for black folks to go to college. And so seeing that person travel the world, seeing that person address the full body of the United Nations, seeing that person's body of work be an inspiration for others all over the planet, it pushed me, because a lot of that came after I finished college. She got me through, but then her part shines so brightly that I can't tell you enough. The people that know me know how I feel about my mom. I'll go to war with anybody you put in front of me over my mama. Now, she can work your nerves, because, you know, adult mamas,
Adult black mamas.
oh boy. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about.
I'm Latino mamas. We be falling in line.
Some of y'all mamas know what you did. Went all the trouble to take your mama to the doctor, and she come out the kitchen eating a piece of bacon. Mama, you know you're not supposed to. I'm grown. I can, you know, yeah, okay. So y'all pray for me. But if it's somebody that's better than Doris Payne on this planet, you take the heavyweight champ. Give me Doris Payne, and I know who's gonna win.
last but not least, we spoke really quickly about that fly that landed on Mike Pence's head during the historical vice presidential debate a couple of weeks ago. What did you think when you saw a fly land on this dude's head for 2 whole minutes, knowing that flies don't stay still for more than a couple of seconds? Come on now.
Fly found his way home. I mean, come on. It was all the people in that room, and not one of them had a fly on their head. We've been sitting out here for an hour plus. I have not seen a fly land on your head. You haven't seen a fly land on my head. And we 10 feet from a trash can.
You know, I ain't smelled a stitch of bullshit up in here though.
I mean, it's poetic. It's you know, the divinity in the universe letting us know who we don't want to vote for. It's hilarious if it wasn't so funny. You know, it is something that we just got to be aware of, man. Keep going, keep pushing, keep grinding, and let's have a convo in 2 weeks. You're invited to the party. We were not able to have physical homecoming at Howard University this year, but we've decided that when our Bison sister Kamala Harris is inaugurated in January, that's when we're going to go to D.C. and kick it.
Yes, yes.
You know, we celebrate victories. We're talking about first person look like us to sit a heartbeat from the presidency, in charge of things we can't imagine, and you know, you run in the direction that you pray for. That's what we're doing. Let's go.
Let's run in that direction, Professor. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you.
Anything,
OMH
anytime.
fam, the legendary Professor Derek Payne in the house, blessing us and dropping some knowledge.
Love y'all and love yourselves. Be good to yourselves, be good to each other. Keep going forward. I got your back. Joe knows how to get to me. Peace.